If you're under the impression that riding an electric bike to work will save you money on commuting costs, this video will really surprise you. Hang in there. I bought my Bosch Cube Touring Hybrid in June 2016 and I just sold it last week. It's now June 18th, 2022. What I'm addressing in this video is the ownership cost of an electric bike. I'll analyze all the costs and expenses that occurred since the purchase date, and I'll subtract the amount that I got for the bike when I sold it. In 2016, I paid $3,749 for the bike itself, which came with a 400 watt-hour battery. Since I was planning on using the bike for long-distance travel, I would need more range than one battery could give me, so I bought a second 400 watt-hour battery at the same time as the bike. So that added another $1,000 to the cost. The following year, I was planning a longer trip, so I bought a second spare battery, this time a 500 watt-hour one, for $1,200. Add to that the sales taxes. All told, the bike and spare batteries came to $6,732. Over the 6 years, I spent $652 on repairs and maintenance. This makes the total ownership cost $7,384. When the time came to sell my Cube after 6 years, I had no idea what price the market would dictate. I had the 3 batteries tested for their remaining capacity so I could reassure the buyer that they were getting good batteries. The 2 400 watt-hour batteries had 261 and 241 watt-hours left, and the 500 watt-hour battery still had a very respectable 456 watt-hours remaining capacity. So I published a YouTube video entitled, "How much should I ask for my Bosch Cube Touring?" Several of you provided their input, and the average estimated selling price was about $3,000, including the 3 batteries. So I put it up on Kijiji and Craigslist for $3,000. After 3 weeks, there had been many views of the advertisement, but no takers, so I lowered my price to $2,750. No interest at all. At this point, a couple of viewers suggested that I sell the bike with the 500 watt-hour battery and sell the other 2 batteries separately. So I put the bike up for sale at $2,500 and the batteries at 50% of the going rate per watt-hour. A few weeks later, I got an offer of $1,800 for the bike and 2 batteries, and I turned that offer down. Finally, a couple came to see the bike, and they wanted the bike with 2 batteries for $2,000. So after some haggling, in the end, we settled for $2,150 for the bike and the 3 batteries. So if you subtract the sale price of $2,150 from the all ownership costs, the net cost comes to $5,234. At first hand, this looks like a lot of money for 5 years. When you're calculating the cost of operating an automobile, you break it down to cost per kilometer or per mile. Over the 5 years, I rode my Cube 11,300 kilometers. So when we do the calculation for my Cube, it comes to a whopping 46 cents per kilometer in Canadian currency, or 20 cents US per mile. That's as much as it costs to operate a car. You might say, "Robert, you're not a normal guy. A lithium battery is the most expensive part of the bike, so people don't buy an electric bike with 3 batteries. If you had bought the bike with only 1 battery, like normal people do, your cost per kilometer would be much less." I can buy that argument, so let's see how much less. Cost of the bike with 1 battery, $3,749. Sales tax, $487. Total of bike and 1 battery, $4,236. Add to that $652 of repairs and maintenance, and you get a total ownership cost of $4,888. Now, after 6 years, that original 400 watt-hour battery would likely have less than 200 watt-hours of capacity left. 200 watt-hours would be unacceptable for most people, so the buyer, facing the need to pony up $1,000 for a new battery, wouldn't want to pay $2,150 for the bike. In reality, all I would get for the bike would be $1,100. Subtract that from the all ownership costs, and you get a net cost of $3,789, which comes to a more affordable 34 cents per kilometer. So, if you're buying a high-end electric bike and sell it after 6 years with the intention of saving money on commuting costs, think again. Your next argument might be, Robert, if instead of dishing out big bucks for a quality German-made bike, you did like most people and buy a more conventional bike, your loss would be much less. So let's see how much less. I did a search to find a modestly priced bike with the equivalent features of the Cube. Here's what I found. It's an iGo Core Elite 3. It's a nice looking machine with a suspension fork, adjustable swept-back handlebars, a 576 watt-hour integrated battery, mechanical disc brakes as opposed to hydraulic ones that come with the Cube, chain guard, rear rack and front rack, fenders, kickstand, and integrated front and rear lights. All that for only $2,500. So now we have a more reasonable number to work with. Add maintenance and taxes, and you get a total ownership cost of $3,526. Again, when comes time to sell the bike after 6 years, this is when you get scalped. The battery would be down to half its original capacity, and the buyer would argue that he'll have to dish out $900 for a new battery, so like it or not, you'll have to accept the $500 sale price. Your net ownership cost then would be $3,026, and the cost per kilometer would be a more reasonable 27 cents Canadian or 12 cents US per mile. Still expensive. But then you might ask, suppose you keep the bike longer, say 10 years. Okay, the total ownership cost comes to $4,861. At the end of the first 5 years, your battery will have lost so much capacity that you'll have to buy a second one to extend your range. But by the end of the 10th year, the first battery will be finished, kaput, and the second battery would be down to half its original capacity or less. Because you've always kept the bike well maintained, you'll get a generous offer of $500 for your old bike. That will make the net ownership cost $4,361. However, the total distance traveled will be in proportion to the 11,300 kilometers for 6 years, or 18,300 kilometers. Now, divide $4,361 by 18,300, and it comes to 24 cents per kilometer, or 11 US cents per mile. Notice that I haven't taken into account the cost of the electricity in any of my calculations. That's simply because the cost of charging an electric bike battery is insignificant, at something like 10 cents per charge cycle. What's the moral of the story here? Electric bikes are not cheap, but we have to take into account the main reasons we like to ride our electric bike. The feeling of independence and freedom it gives us. The simple pleasure of hopping on a bike and being able to ride 5 times faster than walking and 5 times slower than driving a car. The satisfaction of beating the traffic at rush hour. The enjoyment of friendly bicycle paths and quiet country roads. Sharing a common interest with friends we ride with. The health and spiritual wellness that fresh air and exercise provide. The convenience of being able to carry heavy loads and shopping without needing to use our highly polluting car. The satisfaction we get from using a less environmentally damaging means of transportation. And finally, for travel nuts like myself, the challenges of long rides and long-distance travel. It's quite possible that I missed something important in my calculations, or that I'm basing my conclusions on faulty assumptions. If you've noticed something that doesn't quite make sense, or if you have any ideas you'd like to share, please let me know in the comments. I read all my viewers' comments and try to respond to each one. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, or that you found it useful, or at least not too boring. If you'd like more information about electric bikes or bicycle campers, have a look at all my video titles by typing www.youtube.com/c/robertberrio/videos in the web address bar of your browser. Thank you for your interest.